All right, guys. It turns out the injury report was wrong, and the BC Lions had a chance to win with their starting quarterback and hits it. But let's linger a little bit longer after we see this amazing replay. What goes on here? Oh, he almost received it. Almost ran with it, but it was down the middle. And this guy was having too much fun rubbing it in. I wonder what the next game between these two teams will be like. Oh my god. The guy jumping over that fence. This is part of the fun though. This is why we like hockey too, right? I like hockey well enough. Oh, that's the end of that clip, huh? All right. Please take a brief moment to have a look at these games. These are the 3 games this week. Usually there's 4 games. I don't know what's going on here with the scheduling. Not a Canadian myself, so interesting stuff. Let's go ahead and review the prior weeks. The prior week's play has the Winnipeg Blue Bombers falling to the Calgary Stampeders as I predicted. However, I didn't think it'd be that far. I knew that Hamilton would defeat the Argonauts handily. It's just that Hamilton is not a great team at everything. It's a above average team at everything. Toronto is good at certain things, but not above average at every aspect of the game. So that was a nice call. And this is the annoying one. 21-20. I really like the Alouettes, even though, I have my issues with Montreal. The BC Lions were able to get their starting quarterback back, Rourke. They said that he was injured, so that's annoying when it comes to forecasters like me. It's another reason why you shouldn't gamble, right? But I want to forecast the games. And I called it. The Red Blacks are the worst team in the CFL. As I said. Oh, it's good for the Elks because I don't know however many teams they can pull that off again against, but Ottawa Red Blacks had that really odd win against the Stampeders where it was the weather. And as it turned out, I was right enough to say that the Elks could win this one. It was a nice little feather in my cap as we move on to the actual games. Oh, I guess we ought to see some clip here first. Here is old Zach Calaros dropping back and plunk. He got it. He had a very good showing against the Elks. However, the Elks were basically a practice team for his Blue Bombers. Here's a better angle here. Running, touchdown. Well, it's good that the Alouettes packed a heavy lead at the start of the season because without Davis Alexander, they have been slipping. They're not the team that they were before. But I'm still impressed with the roster. I think there's a lot of upside here once David Alexander suits up again. Tiger Cats are probably where they should be. They're the second best team in the East. They're going to have trouble with some of those Western Division teams. But I will say that they're a quality team. I do think they're a cut above the Argonauts. That's been demonstrated. The Red Blacks are the worst team in the league now. Move over, Elks. Red Blacks, Ottawa's dominating at something, and it's losing worst. Rough Riders continue to cruise in this one. I honestly have less to say about them because they have the bye week. They can righteously they took off, so they're probably healthier, if anything, heading into this one. They'll have a game this week though. Stampeders had that annoying loss against the Red Blacks, but they're proving everyone wrong. I thought they were worse. Everyone thinks they're worse, but they're better than you'd think. The BC Lions are better than you think, but they're beneath the Blue Bombers. The Blue Bombers had a few tune-up games, and then they met the Stampeders and got a taste of what's to come in the league. However, I know that the Blue Bombers have a lot of room for growth. So when I look at the Tiger Cats, it's not like I think that they're capped out at what they can do this season. Not at all. But the Blue Bombers have more room for getting into form. Now, well, it was the Blue Bombers that lost the Argonauts, for example, in last season's Grey Cup. So, little anecdote for the other Americans like myself. The Lions. The Lions have so much potential with Rourke where I think they can make a playoff run. It's just a question of which of these top three teams gets knocked out. The Blue Bombers, like I thought, are not quite there yet, but they could be. They could be in the future. Currently have a good sizable lead on the Lions and the Elks, but one of these three teams might fall off and the Lions might get into the playoff. And that's basically all I'll say about the Lions. I don't think they're a championship team. They're the most valuable team in the CFL in terms of cap space, but not the best team. That's probably the Alouettes when they're fully healthy. The best team currently in the CFL is still the Rough Riders heading into this week. I would say the Rough Riders, although I still think the Alouettes roster is better and has more potential to be the best. Because for the longest time, I was so impressed with that roster. That's really sad for me. I'm kind of... I had these preview magazines growing up, and it had a CFL section in a college football, like Street and Smiths, if you're familiar. And in Street and Smiths, I was like, oh, Rough Riders, that's a cool name. Blue Bombers, that's a cool name. Alouettes, I don't know. I'm not French. But I am familiar with these teams in my deepest of memories. Except I like the Eskimos. They're gone. And that leads us to the Elks. The Elks are continuing to rebuild. And it's nice for them to beat the Red Blacks because this is clearly not the Elks' year. And it's clearly not the Red Blacks' year. I know that the Argonauts aren't performing well. But let me just tell you, I already have the East Division figured out. The Alouettes, Tiger Cats, and Argonauts are definitely going to go to the playoffs. And the Red Blacks aren't. They're not. Whereas in the West Division, I can only say that of the Elks. You know, one of these four teams above the Elks is going to get left out. Just a matter of who. It's just we need the Schooners or Schooners to join. And, you know, then we can have equal divisions because it's kind of unfair with the East Division. You know, maybe we combine the Elks and the Red Blacks and make the Red Elks or something. Anyways, next clip. Have a look at this shot. It's going to be a Calgary clip. Whoa, he got all that pressure and he lofts it. The defensive back had his head turned. Look at that. Didn't lead the receiver, but you know, it's just good to get the ball off, put it where the other guy can't get it. I am sorry, my Canadian cousins. This is a low quality image. How did this happen? Look at the Gatorade. There's some bleeding there. Oh, I just really like the catch. That's the same catch from that clip, actually. You see that? That's how much I liked it. Vernon Adams Jr.'s 13 out of 18, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, 12.3 average. What's not to like? Let me go ahead and jump cut and do some math here out of that 13 into 18 into 13 here. Oh, excuse me. 13 divided by 18. 72%. Yeah, it was a good showing. Now for the running backs, very, very good. This is what I call balance. I like that Quincy Vaughn's running. I'm happy though that Vernon Adams Jr. ran once. Just keep it as little as possible. You know. But they have had more than 20 carries. 18 carries is enough of a balance, but overall there's 26 of non-Vernon Adams going for a run. So you've got balance. They continue to be shining on offense. The targeting, it's basically spread out well. I'm going to say that he spread out well. He was the point guard. He was making the defense think, oh, he doesn't have a favorite. We have to cover the full field, cover each of these wide receivers and slot backs like they're the real deal. They're going to catch the ball. Overall, Everybody did their part. 70%, of course, with 72, that is. So Vernon Adams Jr. Yeah, he hit them. He hit them well. Now, not any sacks on defense. You got 3 tackles for loss, which does help, and a couple of interceptions. So the defense, it continues to be the spot where I worry about this team. But that offense is really good. And the defense sticks around. The defense doesn't collapse. So there's that to be said. The Calgary Stampeders are a very healthy team in where they stand. But the problem is they're going to be playing the Rough Riders. How about we take a look at this one? A lot of movement there, a lot of misdirection at the line of scrimmage. And, let's give you a good clip, though, okay? We'll give you a good clip of the Rough Riders since this is their part of the show. Here's a good one. Another defensive play. Cuts under there. Yeah, that was a lofting pass. And that field is wide for the throw. Touchdown, Rough Riders. All right, guys, let's have a look at these stats here. Jake Meyer. Old Jake Meyer. Not exactly the guy that you'd want right there, but it didn't really matter now, did it? Let's see. That's a 56% throw right there, 13 out of 23. 170 yards passing, not good enough. Despite it being 7 yards per attempt, not really good enough, but he's not losing you the game. So, it's not the best audition, but you might get a call back. Now, A.J. Ouellette is the heart of that team. Just rumbling for a touchdown there. 6-yard average. 23 carries. He does the balance on his own. Glad to see Tommy Stevens run. I don't have a problem when the backups run. And then we have 16 extra yards. So just the rushing attack continues to be dominant. Now, there's a fixation on 2 receivers here. But, hey, Jake Meyer is filling in. He's filling in, so don't get too hard on him. Because let's say he's playing more often, then I'll take more of a critique here. But he's focusing on Keyshawn Johnson, a very good target, and Dante Myers. I think they just say Dante Myers in the telecast. Now, 0 tackles for loss and 0 sacks. What's going on here? This was a game before Rourke was playing. What happened to the defense? Well, the best defense of last season. And this defense plays well until the 4th quarter, so I don't understand these numbers. Because they played the BC Lions not last week, but the week prior. 2 interceptions, a forced fumble. I expect them to play a little bit better this week. So don't put much stock into it as we go to the injury report. Let's throw up another clip. I gave 2 clips to the Rough Riders technically, so let's go back to Calgary. Why not? This is just one where you see the wide receiver. It's not a broken route. He says, I got to get my quarterback an opportunity. Comes back to the ball. First down. Very nice. Welcome to the boring part. The boring part of the episode where we look at injuries. Yeah, it looks like Trevor Harris, he had a head illness. I guess he had a migraine. That's why Meyer was playing. Yeah, Trevor Harris will be back. I'm sure. He's playing full. You see full means he's coming back. He was in pads. He was playing. That did bother me. That bothered me that he didn't play. But, hey, they won. So, hey, who's the fool here? I am. They're able to win. That's the thing with the injury reports. They say this guy's playing, but he isn't, and this guy is not playing, but he is. That's just how it is in Canadian football. Now let's just look at this more substantially here. The offensive lineman that I was really worried about for the Stampeders, he's going to be back. He's been playing in full. So that's fine. Quincy Vaughn, non-injury related, he maybe is just drunk. That's just really open to interpretation. We don't know what the issue is. I don't see much impact here for the Stampeders. Jeshroon Antwi, be nice to have another running back, but you don't need it. They have enough runners in the mix that it's not that big of a deal. Thomas Bertrand Huden. Ugh, hate having to do that. Huden. I think it's Huden. That's it feels like a loss because he's going to be sharing carries. Now, more importantly, Jacob Brammer is coming back, but is he at full health? Whereas Peyton Collins and then Daniel Johnson, and then Trevon Tate Trayvon Tate at the very bottom. That's going to be huge that their offensive line is not quite healthy because this is a running team. And even if it was just strictly a passing team with Trevor Harris, thankfully he's back, I think, because it's CFL injury report here. Then it's still an issue because then this old guy, Trevor Harris, is getting knocked down. Anyways, on to more interesting things, I'm sure. Next clip. Here comes Drew Brown. He's scrambling, but not passing the line. He just was trying to prolong the play. I like that. Not necessarily first down, just good. Did you hear that? That was me trying to find something positive about the Red Blacks. It's kind of difficult for me, seeing as they are the Red Blacks. They're not great. All right. Drew Brown. Drew Brown was good enough. Good enough to get them a game. But, he's playing the Edmonton Elks, the Hulks, the Goliaths from Edmonton. So, it's a little bit more difficult than him throwing a good game, I suppose. Because with a defense like that, and a team with the discipline that it has, it's just a shocker. But 31 out of 43, good enough. That is 72% even. Not even, but pretty darn close to even. 316 yards, 2 touchdowns, and just at that good enough range of 7 yards per attempt. Per attempt that landed. Per attempt, it would be much lower than 7. And most people think that it's bad, that this isn't good enough a number per completion. But I think it's good enough to be serviceable. Drew Brown did not lose them this game. You would agree, I'm sure. The running attack was enough to be balanced. And mostly I'm going to fixate on the defense, despite there being a sack and a few tackles for loss. Because there were so many plays where it's sort of like a phantom thing. So you see the stats here. I know we're skipping ahead to defense, but you see the stats here where you have tackles for loss and you have some sacks. They're getting pressure. But when you see the actual content of the game, those receivers and runners for the Elks were able to break on speed alone where Contain should have stopped them. Contain wasn't there. So we started the season with the Red Blacks being undisciplined in terms of penalties. And this is a continuation where's your assignment on defense? Something worthy of discussion. Anyways, there's enough yardage here, sub 100 that is, but enough yardage to give you a balance in the CFL or the NFL or the NCAA. That's American college football. But the defense really was a phantom. It's a stat phantom where you see all of these great stats right here for them, but it didn't. But the lows were so low that it basically you could have put in a different defense and maybe had a better result. Like an average defense would have been great to have. But there's a hyperfixation on Eugene Lewis and Justin Hardy. Those two receivers are getting undue amounts of attention where there should be a distribution at this level. But at least with Eugene Lewis, it was 8 out of 10 receptions. He saw a mismatch. I'll give him that. But I just want to see more of a point guard mentality here for quarterbacks, if I'm being honest with you. All right, next clip. I'm sorry, everybody. Let's compare them against this week's opponent. All right, Hamilton. Yeah. Oh, big bomb. He almost led the receiver, but the receiver compensated. Touchdown. Sorry about that. I couldn't breathe right. Okay, let's have a look at these stats here. Bo Levi Mitchell looking sharp, doing his thing. 19 out of 24 passes. That's brilliant. 332 yards. That's amazing. 5 touchdowns. That's inhuman. And a 13.8 yard average per completion. And most of those were completions. 19 out of 24 is nearly 80%, 79.1% on that completion percentage. There's enough balance here in terms of the amount of carries, which being 18, since there's 22 carries right here. And we've got enough rush yards where it's not 100, but it's very darn near close. Enough of a balance there. In fact, let's go ahead and do the matharoo. 48, 38, 14. It's 100 yards even. Dang it. I thought I called that, but it's 100 yards even. There's enough balance here indeed. I'd like to see at least 80 yards or 70 yards to at least give the defense a thought that there's more going on. I like the selection here of receivers being targeted. In Kenny Lawler, I know he stands out, but look at the distribution here. It's, it's also field conditions where it doesn't have to be completely perfect, but I like that there's distribution of the ball. The defense didn't have the greatest stats in the world, but they did enough. They did enough against the Argonauts in their match. I don't want to call the game now because it sort of ruins the video, but the Tiger Cats should be able to cruise against the Ottawa Red Blacks. Let's just leave it at that. They're good enough to beat the worst team in the league. And now we'll move on to the last game. I know, there's only 3 games. It feels like a ripoff to me too. Oh, first off, you got to see the boring slide, the injury report. Ugh, that's going to be bad. All right. Head, foot, mouth, hand. A lot of offensive lineman injuries for the Red Blacks. That doesn't help. Linebackers out. That doesn't help. Oh my gosh. They're going to be worse than usual. All right. Yeah, I'm sorry, Ottawa fans. While the Tiger Cats, they have some injuries too, but it's not going to affect them as much. Load management's, he's still like a couple of guys have some lingering injuries, like Jacob Zott and Quavion White. It's not a good time to have the odds stacked against the Red Blacks. Let's give you guys a clip as we head into the last match. This is going to be infuriating, I know, but I just have to show it because it's kind of funny. Like the play's over. No, it's not. You got to see the side view, which is coming up real soon. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Game's not over. They won, though. There we go. Let's try to hit pause for a jump cut. Look what happens to me sometimes. Another annoying clip for the Lions fans. I'm sorry. The Lions fans are happy. Why? They beat the best team in the league, in my opinion. That's why. So let's have a quicker look at this. A little bit closer. Rourke did not play that well, but, having the starting quarterback rather than not made the difference in this match, in my opinion, because a lot more could have gone wrong with a different quarterback. We saw that in a few other weeks. With a 61% completion percentage, not really showing me much, but 350 yards still. I don't take the interceptions as seriously as I do in the past because the game, even in the NFL, has changed. The CFL, if there's like 1 touchdown, 1 interception, it's not like the death of your favorite guinea pig or something. With 9.8 yards per completed attempt, pretty good. Pretty good. Enough balance with the running attack. As you see here, he's going to give him a stiff arm. The targeting is average, but not bad. You got 3 receivers here. Justin McInnes, Stanley Berryhill III, and Keon Hatcher. It seems like anybody named Keon Hatcher, Keon, that is going to run fast, right? But not a standout performance necessarily on defense, despite it being a low scoring game. Just sort of, they hung around. They hit that back up a few times beyond the line. A couple of sacks, for instance. Yeah, that's right. And a forced fumble. They stuck around. That's funny because I have nothing negative to say about their defense, though. I mean, ultimately, it's 21-20. They won. Keeping a team under, at 20 points is pretty impressive. So, nothing negative to say there. I won't be a Nancy that's negative. Now, let's see the other team here. Not the worst team in the league, the Edmonton Elks. Eskimos. I just wanted to show you guys this one. It's sort of a fun one, more than a technical clip, where he's going to Trey Ford is a gamer. He throws the ball pretty well, getting knocked down. So cool, right? Let's watch it from this angle. Trey Ford. The guy that I don't like, but he plays well enough there, didn't he? Trey Ford was looking pretty good, though, wasn't he? He was playing pretty well. So I know that I've been negative about Trey Ford, but look at those numbers, 15 out of 17. That's above 90 right there. It has to be. Nope, 88%, but, it's whatever. Now, Cody Fajardo, 4 out of 4. How about that? But I'm just, 15 out of 17. That basically perfect. 12.5 yards per attempt that was completed. 2 touchdowns, 212 yards. I guess TSN is right. Trey Ford is, a pretty good guy now that he's broken in, right? Over 100 yards rushing with one guy alone. That's enough of a balance. They broke the 18 attempts, carries across these guys. So enough of a balance to give them some unpredictability. And I feel that there was enough of a distribution here just in terms of breadth of the amount of targets. Sure, you could go 4-6-4 with Rankin, Dunbar, and Giddens. But you just see the amount of players and you take that into account. This guy's a distributor. He's not my favorite quarterback, but he's a good enough of a quarterback. Now, the Elks didn't have a shining defensive play, but, they're better than the Red Blacks. So, can't say anything too negative about it. Let's go ahead and look at the boring gray and black injury report. Let's do that. Oh, wait, there's nothing there. This is what I'm talking about. How could there be no injury report for two teams? Like they're playing this week. What's going on, TSN, CFL, or maybe it's not TSN's fault. Let me see which website did this, by the way. But this is literally what I saw, is that nobody was listed for either team. So, don't want to end on a grumpy note. Let's go ahead and look at the spread for these 3 games and make some picks. Let's first delve into the Calgary Stampeders against the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Oh my gosh. This is the game of the week for me. This will be so much fun to watch. Let me think about it. Oh, let's pull up your who's favored. Let's do that for you guys. They're calling it a 5-point spread for the Rough Riders. I feel that the Rough Riders are going to win, but I don't think they can cover that amount of number right there. I think it's going to be a close match. I would go money line. If I don't like gambling, I don't like telling. Well, I don't mind necessarily. I just don't want other people to gamble that feel compelled to or addicted to it. But I would have to say skip on the 5 points. Just go money line. Pick them for the Rough Riders. And if you're unfamiliar with gambling, the money line is you pay roughly $100 or a little bit more to do a pick 'em, and then you pick one of the 2 teams. So you want to go money line. Don't take the points. Just go money line. Rough Riders for the win. Hamilton versus Ottawa. Well, it's Ottawa at Hamilton, so it's even better for Hamilton. Let's look at the line here. It is the Tiger Cats with a 5.5. That is, you have to score 6 points to get your money if you choose the Tiger Cats. I think that the money line and the points will be covered by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Easy win, in my opinion. And now another game that's, these last two games are less compelling than the first one. That's going to be a shame. They almost should like move Calgary and Saskatchewan to the back of the week, you'd think. But now the BC Lions taking on the Edmonton Elks. Easy money line win for the Lions, but let's look at the amount of points that they're favored by, because they're most certainly favored in this match. Lions are a 3.5 favorite, so you have to get 4 points to get your money back from the casinos and then some. I would say that the Lions can do that. They can get the points and the money line win. That's a real shame. The Tiger Cats and the Lions are clearly going to cruise in these two matches here. However, I'll still watch it. But the Calgary Stampeders and the Rough Riders, that's the match I'm most excited for. That's going to be amazing. Any case, thank you for watching. Bye for now. And look around this channel for some college football as we head into the next season's play. Bye for now.